Hey, I'm Todd DeWalt. Thanks for listening to the Construction Leading Edge podcast. If this is your first time joining us, we are all about helping you, the construction business owner, systematize your business so you have more freedom, more impact, and more wealth. We're all about helping you put systems in place so your business runs more profitably and hopefully without you. And to that end, we have a great interview for you today with longtime client and a good friend of mine, Max Christiansen, one of the owners of Tru Builders in Arizona. And here's what we talk about. We talk about the freedom that comes from setting up accountability, delegating properly, and then letting go of control. Max talks about his experience with that. He also talks about his transition from working in corporate America, going into entrepreneurship, and some of the lessons he picked up along the way. We talk about how and why to focus on results with your team rather than tasks. Instead of task saturation, focus on results. The importance of Max's morning routine and what his morning routine looks like. Max talks about how few phone calls he gets every day and what he did to make that happen. So if you get hundreds of text messages and phone calls a day, you're going to want to pay attention to this one. Max talks about what systematizing his construction business has done for him and his family. And he also talks about his experience in our CEO Alliance program. So without further ado, let's jump into my conversation with Max Christiansen. Enjoy. All right, Max Christiansen, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today, man?
Doing great, Todd. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. You were on the podcast a couple of years ago, maybe nearly 2 years ago. It's been a little while. So tell us a little bit about the name of your company, where you're located, and the kind of work you do. Let's get started with that.
Sure. Name of our company is Tru Builders, Tru, no E. We are located in the Northwest Valley of Phoenix, specifically Surprise. Let's see. And we've been around for 14 years. I think that's it. We do additions and remodels mainly, and we will be getting back into some select custom homes here probably within the next 6 to 12 months.
Okay. So let's go back to the beginning. Tell us a little bit about your story and how did you get started in business?
Yeah. So story's probably not too much different than maybe some other guys, but I'll go through this. So my dad was a builder. He got his license contractors the year I was born. I'm going to go ahead and just let you know how old I am in 1962. I started working with him when I was 8 years old. When I started, when I was 10, I worked all summer long and he gave me a $20 bill. When I was 11, did the same thing. He gave me a 50. When I was 12, he did the same thing and gave me a $100 bill. And he goes, "Okay, Max, I've taught you how to work." So he gave me a great work ethic. He built custom homes and some certain select commercial buildings for the people that he built custom homes for. So he retired, semi-retired when I was about 19 years old. And then I went off and I was a professional snow skier for about 4 years. I was a ski bum and did construction in the summertime. And then when I was 23, really sort of got focused back again on my career, what I wanted to do, started working for a national home builder as an assistant superintendent, worked my way up to project manager. And then in 1993, my wife and I moved out here to Arizona. And by 1999, I was working for a national builder, running all of their development, $50 to $100 million worth of volume. And that's when I started my own company in 99.
All right. So let's talk about some important stuff. I didn't know you were a ski bum, a professional ski bum for 4 years. Where were your favorite resorts to ski at? I mean, this could be the most important stuff we talk about today.
Could very well be. So my favorite all-time place to ski is a place called Taos, New Mexico. And when you walk up to Taos Ski Valley, you're going to see a sign and it says, "Don't panic. You're only looking at 5% of Taos Ski Valley." It's rated 70% expert, 30% intermediate. There is no advanced and there's no beginner. So that's probably my favorite place to ski of all time. I was based out of Angel Fire, New Mexico, which is about 45 minutes outside of Taos. So, yeah.
I was in Albuquerque last year, and I was surprised to find out that there was actually skiing in New Mexico. By the way, I would not, if you're thinking, maybe I should visit Albuquerque, I don't recommend it. I went there for the Breaking Bad tour with some friends, but for those of you listening, not anywhere on my list of recommended places to visit. If you're a big Breaking Bad fan, go check it out. But I was surprised. Have you been to? Are you a Breaking Bad fan?
Not really, Todd, but that's okay. I would not highly recommend Albuquerque either, but northern New Mexico is beautiful. Lived up at 8,500 feet elevation for about 4 years, so it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I prior to visiting, I did not know that New Mexico had skiing, but sounds like Taos is a great place to go. This is kind of a weird question, but what did you take away, what did you take away that was beneficial? Spending a lot of time skiing, being, as you called it, a professional ski bum for 4 years.
Let's see what I took away from that. Well, just had a lot of fun. I did ski patrol for 3 of those 4 years as well, because I did need to make money. That was pretty important too. But let's see, what I would take away from that is, I would say, no matter what, go ahead and whatever you do in life, just love what you do. I love construction. I love skiing. We still ski every day not every day, every year as a family. So we go on a minimum of 1 ski trip per year. All of our kids know how to ski. I still do that. And so that's what I would take away from that. Just whatever you do, love what you do.
Yeah. So I've known you for a couple of years now, and I'm learning all sorts of things about you. I didn't know you were on the ski patrol either. What might surprise people about what's involved with being on ski patrol?
Sure. Well, number one, we are basically the police officers and the EMTs and the firefighters of the ski area. So it's a lot of fun. We're the first ones on the mountain. We're the last ones off the mountain. And I will just tell you, it's probably one of the most fun jobs I've ever had. And at some point in time, I may even do that part-time again. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about your time working for a national builder. A lot of people who listen to this podcast, who own a construction business, maybe all they've done is what I hear from a lot of people is, well, I started my business, started in construction at 16, started my own business at 18, and I've never worked for anybody else. So having the opportunity to work for a big company is unique. What did you learn that was beneficial or most beneficial during your time working for large national builders like that?
Sure. Well, I think the biggest thing that I learned was it's really important to be a part of a team and to everybody to be pulling in the same direction. I will tell you that the 2 national builders that I worked with, for the most part, had that philosophy. They did have a lot of structure, a lot of policies and procedures, standard operating procedures in place. So I think that was beneficial. I did work my way up fairly quickly in the corporate ladder. When I left, I was basically their VP of construction development manager. So when it comes to the actual construction, I had people underneath us that were doing the actual construction. I was more doing the land development, the rezoning, hiring all the consultants. So that was really, really interesting as well. The company that I worked for, I'm not going to let you know their name, but he actually owns an NFL team, and he has since 1996. So he's a really cool guy, fun guy to work for.
Yeah. What made you decide to leave big corporate America and start your own business? Sounds like things were going pretty well. I'm curious, what led you to make the jump?
I always had the feeling that I wanted to have my own company. A lot of it had to do with my father. My dad had a really close relationship with him later on in life when we were working together. Not too much, not so much. But it's interesting. The older I got, the smarter he got. So I think it was just in my blood. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. There are probably a lot of people listening to this who are currently working for a company, big company, small company, and they feel that urge to do their own thing. Do you have any advice for them? Any questions you would ask them, or any guidance you would give them as they're thinking about, should I make the jump? When should I make the jump? What do you think?
Sure. So you really need to have a passion for it. I have and still have a passion for construction. I have a passion to be able to see something that I have built from the ground up, all the prior planning, all that. If you have a passion for it, then I would say go for it. The other thing is you really have to have a good work ethic. I think more than anything else, for me, those two things, a passion and a work ethic. Now, that work ethic I was taught by my dad. So I think those two things. Sometimes there were times in my life where I just worked harder than anybody else and I made it happen. So if you have that attitude, go for it. But no matter what, just love what you do.
Looking back now, when you started, when you started your own business, were there any big things that sometimes we know we don't know things, and then sometimes there are things we don't know that we don't know. Like when I started my business, I thought, well, I've built multi-million-dollar, really complicated projects. I should be able to, building houses and doing land development and remodeling should be pretty easy. They're such small projects. But what I didn't know, well, there were a lot of things I didn't know about the business side of it. So I'm curious, looking back on it, were there any important things that you didn't know about at that point?
Several. Most of it was on the business end of actually how to run a company, how to read a balance sheet and a profit and loss, how to legally set up companies. For me, I always took everything on as a challenge. And when it came to the actual construction part, I had a lot of confidence and I knew what I was doing. But really starting a company, knowing the business end of it, there were so many things that I didn't know. And I'll tell you, I probably should have really hired somebody up front that was their experience and that was their strong point, because it definitely wasn't mine. And I had to go to the school of hard knocks more than one time to figure that out.
Yeah, same here. I think Dave Ramsey calls it paying the stupid tax. And I don't know about you, but I paid a lot of stupid tax. Lots of stupid tax, like 6 figures in stupid tax over my lifetime. Yeah. So what are a couple of those things if somebody came to you and said, Max, I'm thinking about starting my own business and I'm excited about the construction part. What are a couple of those foundational things you would suggest that they go learn about that maybe they're not passionate about it and they're overlooking it?
Sure. So again, I think more of the business side, the financial side. For me, that was definitely a weak point. But for anybody really, if this is your passion, if you really want to start a construction company and you love that, just make sure that number one, you have enough capital, okay, to go ahead and get started, and reach out and have some professional consultants. I know it's tough, but if you could have a correct CPA, if you could have some of those right professional consultants, whether it's a CPA, it's an attorney, some of those guys to help you get started in the right direction. Because honestly, even in the corporate world, I had copies and I had templates of all these, contracts and all these other things, but I didn't know how to transition that to a smaller company. I thought I did. That would be I guess that in and of itself would be what I would highly recommend that somebody do.
Yeah. Yeah. I've read where Warren Buffett talks about, I think his quote is, accounting is the language of business. So focus on accounting, learn accounting. A lot of people are like, I'm just going to go start building stuff and then we'll figure out the accounting if we survive or when we have to. That's just really a bad idea. It's really a bad idea.
Right.
Just my advice would be go learn the foundational part, because I saw a quote from somebody who said, if you don't do the things that allow you to be an entrepreneur, the things you're passionate about, things you're excited about, like if you don't do the business stuff, the boring stuff, then eventually you won't be able to be an entrepreneur. So if you're passionate about construction and you want to start a company, but you are reluctant or you don't want to go learn about how to build a business, the language of accounting, then there's a pretty good chance that eventually you won't be able to do construction. So eat your vegetables, do the basics, learn the language of business, and that's going to set you up for success. It's going to structure you for success. Yeah. So you've been working with our team here at Construction Leading Edge for a while. I think we started working together close to 2 years ago. What were you guys dealing with that led you to reach out to us initially?
Well, it's interesting because I'm going to have to give credit to my wife, Lori, which I end up doing that a lot, by the way. Anyway,
Smart man.
was listening to some of your podcasts. Yes. She was listening to some of your podcasts, and there was a podcast about, if I'm not mistaken, systemizing your construction business. And also, there was this guy from Australia that had been working like 60, 70, 80 hours a week. And he went from that to working 8 hours a week. And so she said, I think we need to really look at this and check this out. Now, I will tell you that we met you briefly at CoCon in 2019. So that was the connection. She was listening to your podcast more than I was. Thank you, Lori. Again, shout out. So that is how we first came in contact with you. And honestly, at the time, I was working 60, 70 hours a week. And I'm like, man, this is tough. This is crazy. I shouldn't be doing this at this stage of the game in our company. We need to look at something different.
And what were some of the things that were going on? Some of the specific frustrations you were dealing with?
I think more than everybody else, making sure that the team was just pulling in the right direction and just information. It just seemed like, I really wish people could have just read my mind. Okay. It's like, hey, if we could just do it this way, if we could get this information from here over to here and make sure that everybody was on the same wavelength. Unfortunately, not everybody's a good mind reader, and I certainly am not either. So like Lori mentioned, my wife, I'll probably mention her a few more times as well. She's my secret weapon, but I had all this information in my head. Trying to get it from my head out on paper was really, really a challenge. Didn't know how we were going to do that. And so anyway, making sure that people were pulling in the same direction, and then just trying to get information, correct information from one team to the next. That was the biggest issue.
Yeah. And at that point, were you also planning a transition, or maybe you were already in that transition plan?
Yes. So Lori and I have 6 kids. All 6 kids have worked for our company at some point in time for a minimum of about 6 months. We have one daughter that started with us back in 2018, and she shadowed me for the first 6 months. And she said, after a couple of years, she goes, this is what I want to do with my life. And we're like, okay. So that's awesome. So we also knew that we had an option. We were either going to sell the company. We had done a business valuation on the company. We knew what it was worth. Or we were going to turn it over to our daughter because she had made a commitment, more than just a verbal commitment as well, a time commitment. She was all in. And so in order to do that, we were looking to make sure that we had the right people in the right seat, because I was wearing way too many hats the way that it was. And so need to figure out, how am I going to transition out of this?
Yeah. Your daughter is exceptional, by the way. She was exceptional when I met her about 1.5 or 2 years ago, and she's even become more exceptional. So you've done a fantastic job. You and Lori have done a fantastic job of raising an exceptional human. Well done.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So let's talk about ripple effects. Sometimes when we'll call it, I don't know that you used this word, but there were some frustrations, maybe even some chaos, a little bit of friction or turbulence in the business. Sometimes there are ripple effects, and it affects other parts of the business. It's not super well contained. So I'm curious, what parts of your business were feeling the ripple effects or being affected by those issues?
Well, it seemed like every part of our business was, I feel like we had some structure in place. I felt like we were 50 to 60, maybe even 70% there. We had some SOPs in place. We were getting the information out of my head and on paper. We were doing weekly team meetings with sales. We did have pre-construction. We were actually starting and messing around a little bit with pre-construction contracts. And we did have production. And so we felt like we had a basic, decent foundation on our company and how it was structured and how it was running. It was just all the little tiny bit of fine tuning here. And I felt like I needed to do everything, and I didn't. Come to find out, I didn't. But I realized that I was the bottleneck. Everything needed to run through me, and it just wasn't going to work. So I don't know if I answered your question, Todd, regarding ripple effect, but that's just where we were at, and we were super frustrated.
Hey, it's Todd. We'll get back to the episode in just a minute, but let me ask you something. Have you ever signed a contract and then everything starts to feel a little bit chaotic? Questions fly around like, who's ordering what? When does the job actually start? Is the team ready? Did anybody order this material? Has this been approved yet? Project starts to feel like a fire drill, right? Well, the biggest problem in most construction businesses isn't a lack of effort. It's not the people. It's not the projects. It's not the clients. It's not you. It's the gaps in your process. Gaps where details fall through the cracks, where nobody's sure what to do, who's doing what, when it gets done, and you, the owner, end up filling in all those gaps, right? When there are questions, who they got to call? If there's a problem, it's going to land in your lap. And the biggest gap is pre-construction. And the solution is simple. Nailing the handoff from sales to construction. Nail the handoff from the office to the field. Your projects are like a relay race, and there's a baton that needs to be handed off. Nailing the handoff is a well-designed pre-construction process that closes those gaps, eliminates the chaos, and gives you back control. It gives you back the time so you can work on the business instead of being buried in it. And we can help you build that process. The first step is to book a free business evaluation call with our team. On your business evaluation call, here's what we're going to help you do. Spot the real gaps that are creating the chaos, show you how to nail the handoff, and how doing that will put you back in control of your business. We'll even uncover some of the hidden profit that's already in your business. And if it makes sense, we'll talk about how we can help you build a business that runs without you. Click the link in the show notes to schedule your call. Be advised, we only have a few spots available each week, and not everybody qualifies for this call. This is not for everybody. So if you have a wave of work coming at you, or you're planning on growing and hiring people, now's the time to close those gaps with a good pre-construction process. If you're ready to stop reacting and finally take control, this is your next step. Go book your free business evaluation call with my team today. You said you felt like the bottleneck, and I think this is common. A lot of us feel like we have to do everything. And sometimes I don't even know that we entrepreneurs think there's another option. Why do you think that is? Why do you think entrepreneurs feel like they have to do everything, thereby becoming the bottleneck? Where does that come from? What do you think?
Sure. Well, look, in the beginning, it's just us, right? In the beginning, it was just me. I wore every hat. And I did have a couple of people that we hired right off the bat. But as we grew, I really didn't know how to completely delegate every single task. I felt like everything had to be done a specific way. It had to be done Max's way, because that's what I knew. And so that's probably the biggest issue, I think, was just number one, thinking that it all had to go through me because I was the best and I knew everything. And number two, just the inability or the unwillingness to delegate.
Yeah. And do you feel like, I want to dig into this a little bit because a lot of people struggle to delegate. Well, a lot of people struggle to let go completely, and they get frustrated with their team because their team will take ownership. But the problem is not the team. The team wants to take the ball and run with it, but the owner or the leader won't give them the ball. So you mentioned, and what you shared is very common. Feel like you have to be the best. Feel like your way is the best way, maybe the only way. You feel like it has to be done your way. Maybe you feel like you're the only one who can do these things. What have you learned about delegation since then when it comes to letting go of control, delegating? What have you learned about delegation over the past couple of years?
Well, I think the number one thing with delegation is that, number one, I have to understand that I am not the smartest person all the time. I may be really good at certain things in the company, but there are so many other things that they're just not my strong point. Now, back in the day, I had to make them my strong point because there was nobody else to do it. So I think once I came to terms with myself saying, hey, Max, you're really not that good at this. You forced yourself to be. Let it go. And it was probably one of the most difficult things to do in certain areas. But I look at, say, the accounting and the HR of our company. That has never been my sweet spot. That has never been my gift. I've always been able to say, okay, here, you go ahead and take it. But I felt like I still had to oversee it. Honestly, I don't need to oversee any of that. And one of the things that I learned is that, yes, it's difficult to let go, but it is the answer. It's the only answer in order for you to have that freedom, in order for you to let your team grow. Because if you don't delegate, your team is never going to grow. They're never going to be better because you are going to stifle their growth.
That makes sense to me. There are probably some people listening thinking, that sounds great. I would love to let go, but I am terrified of what would happen if I let go completely. What would you say to those folks? How can they start to let go in a smart way? Maybe people have let go too much and they've just gone too far. So now they've overcorrected and they won't let go of anything. What advice would you give to someone who's in that position? They want to let go, but they just can't.
Well, I guess two things. Number one, if you don't, where are you going to be next year? Where are you going to be 3 years? Where are you going to be 5 years from now? If you don't let go, you're going to be in the same position. So if you want to make a change, you're going to have to change. Number one. Number two, empower your team. Let them do it. Go ahead and manage some expectations. But really, are you more interested in the result, or are you more interested in the process? Isn't the result more important than the process? Just because I've done it a certain way for the past 15, 20, 25 years doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best way. Be result oriented. I would say that would probably be the most important thing as far as I'm concerned. Let your team grow.
Yeah, great advice. Focus on the results. Let your team figure out how they're going to get there. Yeah. So let's talk about some of the work you and your team have done over the past year and a half or 2 years since you started working with us. What are some of the most impactful changes you've made to your business? In other words, what are the top 2 or 3 systems or processes that have had the most positive effects for your team?
I will have to say the first and most important thing was understanding the accountability chart, putting actually an accountability chart together for our company. Our accountability chart has 4 boxes. We've got sales and marketing, pre-construction, construction or production, and then HR and accounting. So I would say that would be number one. Outside of that, nail the handoff, man. Oh my goodness. That nail the handoff was completely changed the dynamic of our company probably the quickest. So that nail the handoff helped us tremendously in getting information from pre-construction to construction. And I will tell you, we've done a couple of nail the handoffs, and we don't just have one in our company. We have a few. It's really about getting information from one team to the next team. And then I got to throw in there the revenue maximizer for sure. So I would say those would be the top 2 or 3 things that have really affected our company in a positive way.
Yeah. I want to dig into some of these a little bit. What problems did defining your accountability chart solve for you?
Sure. Well, there was a couple of things. I know a lot of people on our team felt like we were just stepping on each other's toes on a consistent basis. So by putting together an accountability chart, it really helped us focus on what is each individual, what is each team member responsible for? What are they accountable for? So there was just a lot of overlap, a lot of stepping on each other's toes. Well, wait, I thought, weren't you supposed to take care of that? Well, no, in the last meeting we talked about you, but you know what? 3 jobs ago, I was taking care of this, not this. So we didn't have that. That was a big issue. So I think the accountability chart really helped us with that. It also helped us with forecasting where we wanted to be in the next year, 2, 3, 5 years down the road.
Yeah. Same question about nailing the handoff, having a good pre-construction process. What problems did that solve for you?
Well, that's huge. I mean, we went in and did our initial yellow sticky note session, and it was a game changer. We were actually able to implement so many of those things fairly quickly. Now, not everything got taken care of or, got fixed, quote unquote. But I would say 70 to 80% of the things that we were just had a huge challenge. It's just the information getting from one team member to the other. We really had that taken care of within, I would say, 60 days, 30 to 60 days. It was a huge game changer.
Some people struggle with getting their team on board with processes. They're reluctant to try things because they think, well, we've tried things in the past and the team didn't follow it, or it fizzled out, or I just got tired of banging my head against the wall, tired of rolling out processes that the team won't follow. How did your team respond to nailing the handoff? Was it a fight to get them to implement it, or how did they respond to it?
Actually, it responded in a very positive way because we were asking for their opinion. We were asking for them, hey, what do we need to do to make your job easier? And they were like, oh, cool. Wow, you're actually asking me what I think? Yes, we are. And so it was positive. Now, I will tell you, there were a couple of things that we found out quickly that weren't 100% positive up front, but they ended up being a huge asset. And that is that not everybody on your team is going to agree with some of the changes that you're going to be making. And so we found out fairly quickly within about 60 to 90 days. And I will just say part of it was me. It should have been 30 to 60 days that we had to let one of our guys go. He had been with us for almost 7 years, and he just did not want to embrace some of the changes that we were making. And a lot of it was simply he just didn't want to be accountable. So you're going to get some attrition. You are going to get some people sometimes that may not want to continue to be a part of the team.
And looking back on that, how do you, in the moment, some people would think, oh, this is bad. We're losing someone, a long-term employee. It's really hard to find good people. That might sting a little bit in the moment. Looking back on it, how do you feel about the fact that that person left?
Well, I should have done it several years earlier because it made a huge positive impact on the rest of the team. And again, this is going to be part of the production team. So he was a superintendent for us. And oh my goodness, as soon as that happened, literally in a couple of weeks, in about 2 to 3 weeks, we could see a huge positive difference with the rest of the team. So should have done it a long time ago.
So you mentioned results, focus on the results. Let's talk about some of the results that you and your team have seen from the work you've done. To the extent that you're comfortable sharing, I'm curious, what are some of the measurable or the quantifiable results that you've seen from implementing these systems and the work you've done?
Yeah. So, when it comes to obviously some of the key measurables, which would be like revenue, profit, those types of things, I would say we finished SYCB in fall of 22, and in 23, our revenue and our profit was about the same. Okay. But we weren't really as focused on the revenue and the profit. Again, I'm going to go back that my wife, Lori, and I, once Cassie, our daughter, said, hey, this is something that I want to do, we were more about focusing on getting the right people in the right seat on the bus so that Lori and I could start transitioning out of the company. And so our focus when it came to measurables was this. We had an accountability chart that we put together in fall of 22, part of our SYCB program. I will tell you that as of next week, we had an accountability chart that was a 1 year and a 2 year. So in less than 2 years, the accountability chart that we had for us in 2 years, we will have achieved. So we are getting the right people in the right seat. I would say from a measurable standpoint, that was the most important thing for us. And the results for that have been, for Lori and I personally, have been great. So I'm just going to tell you that when we were in the middle of SYCB, I was getting probably 50 to 60 cell phone calls a day on my cell phone. Today, I'm lucky if I get 5. And I would say that half of those are either from a friend or from a family member. The other thing that I'm going to say as a result of that is last year, Lori and I took about 12 weeks off of the company. This year in 2024, these are measurables, by the way. This year in 2024, we will be taking about 17 to 18 weeks off of the company. And so we're super excited about that. I don't know if that resonates with anybody else that may be listening to this, but imagine going from 60 cell phone calls a day to less than 5 and being able to take 16, 18 weeks of vacation a year. So that's the biggest measurable for me.
That's fantastic. I love it. Love it. So we talked about some measurable things. I'm curious if there have been some results that you can't really measure, maybe things that they matter. I've heard it said that not everything that matters can be measured and not everything that you can measure really matters. What are some results that you've seen that are more qualitative and can't necessarily be measured? Anything come to mind there?
Sure. Well, I tell you that we have a team now that is excited to come to work every day. We have a team now that is just completely pulling together in the same direction. And so that's something that I didn't know if I was ever going to be able to accomplish, quite frankly. And there are a lot of reasons for that on why that is now. But I will just tell you that when it comes to our core values, when it comes to our accountability chart, when it comes to our company culture, the things that we've learned not only through SYCB, but also beyond that when it comes to we're involved in an alliance group with you guys. And that has made a huge, massive change, not only for us business wise, but I will tell you also personally. So that's the answer to that question.
Yeah, good stuff. For a lot of people, implementing change is hard. Changing habits, changing mindsets, it's difficult. It's tough. What we found is there are a lot of people just pushing information out there, but information by itself is useless. Implementation is hard. What were some of the couple of the keys to implementing systems and actually making meaningful change in your business? What did you guys figure out that worked when it came to actually making these things show up?
Well, just like anything else, Todd, you have to be on purpose. I mean, look, let's face it. Anybody that's listening to this, you're a business owner. Okay. You've had some level of success and you have at some point in time in seasons of your life, you've done whatever it takes to be successful, whatever it takes to make it happen, right? You can do it again. There are some things that you know that you need to do. Just be disciplined. Just bear down. Just get it done. It doesn't have to be forever. It can be for a season. Whatever you need to do, just do it. You've done it before. Do it again.
What are a couple of habits? One of the things we talk about a lot in the CEO Alliance, sure, which we'll talk about in a minute, we talk about setting outcomes and then setting performance goals and then landing on habits. What are a couple of habits that you've found that have been really crucial for you to achieve results?
Sure. I think for me personally, the most important habit that I have is my morning routine. I've always had one, but it was just completely it was consistently inconsistent. And so over the past several months, I have created just a morning routine habit for me. And I do it 6, 7 days a week. And I'm very disciplined in that. And it just sort of sets the tone for the rest of my day. So that would be, I would say, the most important thing for me. The other thing is going to be designated what I call CEO time for my business. Instead of working in the business, which is what we all do, we need to work on the business. And so that's another habit that I would highly recommend everybody do. And there's some specifics on that. It works a little bit different for everybody, but I would say at least carve out a couple hours a day, a couple hours, maybe at least once or twice a week to do that. And as you get going, you'd be amazed at how many hours that you could spend instead of working in your business, working on your business. Those would be two major habits, I think, that would transform your life and your business.
Yeah, that's great advice. I think a lot of people would say, I need to work on my business. Maybe they block out time. I think there are a couple of things that happen. People say, I need to work on my business, but they just take a wait and see approach and hope they can find some time or hope they have some time left over. And that doesn't work very well. Or people will often take it to the next step and they'll block some time and say, I'm going to work on my business at this time. But then they get interrupted. Phone calls, text messages, somebody walks in their office and they go into firefighting mode and they still end up not spending any time working on their business. How do you think about, sounds like you think about your CEO time differently than those people. There's some people who are like, well, I'll do it if I can. It's like a nice to have. How do you think about that CEO time so that you protect it?
Well, it's vital. If I don't have that CEO time, how is that company, me as the visionary, how is that going to continue to grow and be better? So for me, I make that time intentional. It just has to be intentional. Also, it's better for me if I do it outside of the office, where I'm not in the office, where I don't have any other distractions. So just make it a part of your weekly schedule, just like you do everything else. The other thing for me that I've started doing, and it hasn't been that long, probably about 4 or 5 months, I check my email 3 times a day, morning, afternoon, and then before I leave the office or the evening. That's it. So that helps me focus on the other things that I need to do during the day. An email, a text, I just don't have those notifications on. So I check them 3 times a day. Like I said, my goal is to check them maybe once a day. Not there yet. Working on it.
Personally, my goal is just to delete my email account entirely. I hate email. Wouldn't that be great? Imagine life without email. I'm not sure that that's possible, but that's a dream of mine, is no email whatsoever, because I hate email. So when you're talking about that, I think a lot of people would think, oh, that sounds great, but I need to be available for my team. What if my team has questions? Like I can't not be available for 60 entire minutes in a day because I get 20 to 30 calls, text, emails an hour. I have to be available for my team. And what I'm hearing you say, it kind of reminds me of when you're on an airplane, they tell you in the unlikely event of a sudden pressure change, oxygen masks will drop from the ceiling, and you should put your oxygen mask on first before trying to help your child or whoever's with you. And what I'm hearing you say kind of makes me think about that. Like you need to have your oxygen mask time as the CEO instead of just trying to take care of everybody else's needs. You need your oxygen mask time. Then you can that will actually help you to serve your team even better. Does that sound about right, or am I getting that wrong? What do you think?
No, you're getting that exactly right. Look, your team does not need you to be available 24/7. They don't. Okay. They need to be able to figure their things out on their own. There's always going to be a challenge. There's always going to be an issue. Give them the authority and the responsibility to let them figure it out. That's their job. You don't need to be there and hold their hand. They can do it. Yes. Are they going to make a mistake? Sure. How many mistakes have we made? I can tell you, I've made a ton of mistakes, and that's okay. Mistakes are okay. As long as we don't continue to make them over and over again. That's how they're going to learn. Let them make mistakes. It's okay. Delegate and elevate, as a couple of my good buddies would say. Alex, shout out to you.
Yeah. So I think some people would look at their phone and think all of these calls and notifications, these are a symptom that my team won't take ownership, that maybe I have the wrong people in place. This constant firefighting is a symptom of something. And what have you found that all of those phone calls, what are they actually a symptom of? What's the actual root cause that you solved that now has you in a position where you're getting a handful of calls a day? What were the real root causes of all of those calls? What do you think?
Sure. Well, the real root cause was that I was holding on to everything. I was the bottleneck. I had all the information. And if you have all the information, if you have all the knowledge, if you have all that, then who is going to be the person that anybody and everybody's going to reach out to? I don't need to have all the information. That's what the team is for. That's what you have your team members for. That's why there's an accountability chart. Yeah. So I stay in my own lane right now, and my lane is sales. And I am the visionary in the company. And I think I had mentioned to you before that of next week, we will have our accountability chart, 2-year accountability chart, completely done ahead of schedule. That's because our brand new sales manager is starting on Monday. So a week from today, and we are super excited about that.
Hey, it's Todd. We'll get back to the episode in just a minute. If you're thinking about growing your construction business, maybe you've been wondering things like, how do I know if my business can handle more work without falling apart? Is now the right time to grow, or should we just stay where we're at? Am I missing something that could blow up if I scale too fast? Do I have the right structure in place to support growth and to be able to grow safely? Maybe you're worried about burning out your team or burning out yourself. You're worried about winning more work, but then losing control of the quality and having that hurt your reputation. Maybe you're concerned about getting stuck in more chaos, having more problems instead of having more freedom, or finding out too late that your systems just weren't strong enough to handle the growth. Well, here's what's surprising. A company studied why successful contractors fail, and they found out two things. Number one, contractors don't starve to death. They get too much work too fast with inadequate resources, and then they run out of cash. The second thing that they learned after studying a couple of hundred successful contractors that failed is that contractors are actually more likely to go bankrupt during a growing economy than during a downturn. So how do you know if your business is ready to scale? How do you know when it's time to hire more team members, to go after another market, to sell more work? Well, that's a big question that a lot of people are grappling with. It's a question I get a lot. So that's why I created an assessment tool to help you answer the question, is your construction business ready to scale? This assessment is free, it's online, and you'll get a customized report showing exactly where your business is strong and where the hidden gaps are that could trip you up. It's the fastest way to get clarity before you put your business and your future at risk. So if you want to take the free assessment to find out, is your construction business ready to scale? The link is in the show notes. Fantastic. So you mentioned the CEO Alliance. Let's talk about the CEO Alliance a little bit. You've been in that program since inception back in May of 2023. How would you describe the CEO Alliance in your words, and what
Mhm.
has being in that group done for you?
Yeah. Well, describing the CEO Alliance, wow, there's a lot of different ways that I could describe it. But I think the most important way to describe it for me is having a actual board of directors that is on your side, that's on your team, that you could reach out to for any business question. So imagine this. Imagine having builders from all over the country or wherever, even in your own area, to where you could reach out and you could ask them specific questions on pretty much anything on how to run your business. And they will help you. They will give you their input. They'll give you their knowledge. They'll give you an answer or as much as they can for that specific question. You know, before this CEO Alliance group, I felt like I was on an island. I was on the Max Tru Builders island. There wasn't anybody else that I could actually reach out to whenever I had a challenge or whatever had an issue. If I was just looking for some additional information. Wow. What could I do? What should I do in this situation? What about this? What about this over here? And it could be about everything, about anything and everything. So having those group of guys is honestly invaluable.
What do you think about the live meetups? They're a big part of the CEO Alliance is virtual. What what's the value? What has been the value to you to get together with your group and the other CEO Alliance groups in person?
Sure. You know, my dad told me something a long time ago. He said, you know, all things being equal, you're going to do business with people you know, like, and trust. And the only way that you can know, like, or trust them is to be able to get to meet them. And so these live meetups are huge. It is where you get, it's where you get to meet. It's building relationships. It's having the opportunity to not just talk to somebody on a Zoom or on a phone call, but really getting to know them personally. And I was on a guest coaching call, I think it was last week, and somebody asked me, hey, what do you think about these live meetups? And I think I told everybody, I don't know how many people were on the call, but I just said, you know what? You go to a live meetup. And if you don't think you got your money's worth out of it, you come to me and I will pay you for your time and effort. That's how much I believe in these live meetups. It really is. It's a lot of this stuff it's really hard to explain with words as well. You just sort of have to be there. It's like a concert, right? You got to show up. You got to be there. You have to experience it.
That's true. That's true. Um, so, and I appreciate you sharing that. And I think you're one of the most generous guys we have, and that's a common trait of the CEO Alliance. Is everybody wants to give. Everybody wants to share and contribute and help other people. This is not a group of just takers, people who just show up to take information. And I'm curious, what some people would look at this and think, well, that's really what I want. All I want is what I need. I just want to take information. I need advice when I need it. But what has it done? What does it do for you to be able to contribute to other people and share ideas, share resources, and help other people?
Well, personally, I think that's one of the reasons why I started my company is to help other people. That's what we do, right? As builders is we help other people achieve their dreams. Isn't the American dream still, I think, is for the most part is to own a home. Anyway, so that's what we do. And so I think it is just a natural tendency for most of us to be able to want to give back. I mean, look how we've been blessed, and to be able to give back and help other people, and to, be a part, leave a legacy, so many other things that I can say about that. But yeah, I think that's part of our natural instinct is you want to help others. That's why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah. I've done a lot of research on this topic, and what I found is we're actually hardwired to help other people. Our brain chemistry is actually hardwired in a way that we get a shot of those feel good brain chemicals when we help other people, when we give a compliment, when we serve others. And I've heard psychologists say one of the most selfish things you can do is to be selfless. So one of the most selfish things you can do, one of the best things you can do for yourself is to go serve other people and do things for other people. Yeah. So if you're listening to this and you're like, I am frustrated, I am anxious, I'm depressed, it's very likely that you're thinking about one person. I know when I get frustrated or anxious or annoyed or depressed or down, I'm thinking about one guy, this guy right here. That's all I'm thinking about. And one of the best things you can do if you're in that situation is go help somebody else, because we're hardwired to be selfless, hardwired to serve other people. So good stuff. So let's talk about goals a little bit. You have CEO time. You have a lot of time. You're working on your business now. You have a lot of freedom. What are, to the extent you're comfortable sharing, what are a couple of the goals that you are focused on right now?
Sure. Well, I've got a few. Break down to a couple of them would be to stay just in the sales and visionary role, which is a goal I think that is going to be right around the corner here. I would say third quarter of this year. Another goal, sort of on the same topic of what we were talking about as far as helping others, is by the end of this year, I want to put the legal structure together for something that's been on my heart for quite some time. Just didn't know if I was ever going to be able to do it. But what I want to do is I want to put together an outreach for some local people here in our local communities to be able to help them with remodeling projects, aging in place. And I want it to be a charity. So I don't necessarily want to be the face of it. I just want to be able to put it together. So that's something I want to have the legal structure put together so that maybe we can start moving forward with something like that in 25.
Very cool. Very cool. A couple of standard questions I like to ask people. We'll get into some rapid fire questions. What's something you believe to be true about business that some people might think is a little unconventional, maybe even a little crazy?
Oh, let's see. Well, I would say this. When it comes to hiring, hire the smartest people. You do not want to be the smartest person in the company, is my opinion. Okay. Wouldn't you rather have just a bunch of other smart people in your company? So focus on hiring people that are smarter than you. Don't be scared about, hey, wow, this guy could, do this, or he's better at it than me. Isn't that what we want? So I would say, yeah, hire people that are smarter than you. You don't want to be the smartest person in the room.
That is great advice. Great advice. And I think that's what keeps people stuck, right? It's like they go hire somebody.
Yeah.
They think they want to let go of control, but then they hire somebody who's like a 6 or a 7, and then they micromanage them, and then they have another person they have to talk or tell every little move to make, and they just continue to grow this monster that takes freedom away from them. And the answer is you need to hire people who are smarter than you and get over that fear of what if they're better than me? What if I can't lead them? What if I It's like the cliche of, well, what if we hire all these people and we train them and then they leave? The response is, what if you hire people and you don't train them and they stay? Which is worse. Yeah. A couple of rapid fire questions. What's the best book you've read recently that you would recommend everybody check out?
Oh, wow. So I just reread this book again, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I had read it probably 25 or 30 years ago. Great book. Let's see. I think that would be the one. I mean, I just finished that one not too long ago. There are there's a ton of books out there. And I will tell you right now, Todd, my stack is like huge of to do when it comes to books and reading. That would be the one that I think, that's the number one I would recommend. Again, it's an oldie but a goodie.
It is. What was there are a lot of different parts to that book, and it's kind of structured in an unusual way. So it's sort of like you'll get from it what you need. What part stood out to you as being most impactful?
So look, whatever it is that you want to achieve, you can make it happen. You just have to think about it. It has to be in your mind. It has to be in your thought process on a consistent basis. And I mean, not just once a day, but several times a day. And so it's amazing how that works, because it does work. But that's the one thing that I would, that I got out of it, is just have it right here. The other thing that I just want to share with you too is that I think in a lot of ways, our minds are programmed, unfortunately, to be negative rather than positive. We have got to every day be on purpose about the positive thoughts, not the negative thoughts. It is so easy to live in. So here's another one, to live in the gap rather than living in the gain. We have to focus on living in the gain. And this isn't just a daily decision. This is a decision that I have to make dozens of times a day. So mentally thinking positive, thinking in the gain and not in the gap.
Yeah, completely agree. The book Think and Grow Rich changed the way I think. And the concept of the gap and the gain from Dan Sullivan, which there's a book called The Gap and the Gain. It's also talked about, I learned about it in the book, 10X is easier than 2X. So crucial, because if you believe that you will have whatever you think about, right? Whatever you focus on, you're going to get more of it. Whatever you focus on will get bigger in your life. Now that may sound a little woo-woo, but I've been on this planet about half a century now, and I spent a lot of it focusing on the negative stuff. And you know what I got? More negative stuff. And about 8 or 9 years ago, I started focusing on the positive stuff. What if, you know what? I didn't know, but I thought it's worth a shot. What if I am getting more of this negative stuff because I'm thinking about it? Let's do a little experiment. And I can tell you, when you focus on what you want, focus on your vision, then those opportunities will either come to you or you'll see them, however you want to figure out the mechanics. But so crucial, especially for entrepreneurs, to focus on the positive, to focus on the gain and get out of the gap and focus on your vision. So glad you brought that up. Great stuff. What about a movie recommendation? Any movie recommendations? Maybe a great movie you've seen recently you would recommend?
Well, I just watched this one the other night, and I don't know, it may not trip everybody's trigger, but I will just tell you Top Gun Maverick is one of my favorite ones. I've watched it when it first, actually last year, if I'm not mistaken, when it first came out, we actually took a half a day, and we took our whole team out. We did some bowling. We had some fun. We had some team building stuff. And then after that, we took them all to see that movie. So just rewatched it again. As far as any new movies, don't know if I could recommend any new movies. There's an old movie out there, though. I don't know if you can find it, but there's a movie called Iron Will. Check it out. It is a movie that was set in right around World War One, and it has to do with a bobsled team. So Iron Will, check that one out. I watched that one recently again.
Iron Will. Last rapid fire question, two-part question. Part number one, what's the name of the city, the largest city close to you? And then if somebody's in that city, what's the restaurant or the bar they absolutely have to visit?
It's a good one. Okay, so Phoenix, Arizona, 5th largest metropolitan area in the country. And I will tell you, a great place to eat, I mean, fantastic place to eat, is Arrowhead Grill. So it's in the city of Glendale. Got a great bar there too, but the food is outstanding.
Any cocktail or meal recommendations while they're there?
Yeah, I am partial to a Manhattan, a little bit more traditional with a good rye whiskey. And then it's just hard to beat the ribeye. So for a nice, big, thick steak.
There you go. I like to call that fat steaks and bourbon night. Fat steaks and bourbon night. Get a Manhattan and a ribeye at the Arrowhead Grill in Glendale, Arizona. Good advice. So I'm gradually accumulating like this, the equivalent of, this is the construction leading edge equivalent of diners, dives, and drive-ins. I'm trying to ask everybody, where should you go? And this, frankly, this may be the most valuable part of the biggest takeaway from this podcast. But I know where I'll go if I ever come visit.
Probably will be on this one.
Yeah. So I appreciate you taking the time to do this. Thanks for being a guest coach on our Systematize Your Construction Business group coaching calls. Congratulations on the success. And I'll tell you, you guys are great implementers. That's the key. It's not about just the information. You guys have put a lot of work in. You guys have implemented, and it's really been fun to watch your team grow and watch you guys transition towards your long-term goals. If people want to connect with you, if they want to find you on the interwebs, find you on social media, get in touch with you, where's the best place or the best places they can do that?
Sure. Website is Tru Builders, TRU, builders with an SAZ.com. Feel free to email me, Max, MAX, at TruBuildersAZ.com. And I will just tell you that when it comes to implementing, yes, I am an okay implementer, average. I will tell you, Lori, my wife, and my daughter, Cassie, they are the superstars. So again, just put together a good team around you. Have people in your company that are smarter than you. You won't regret it.
Fantastic advice. Max, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate it. Hey, it's Todd here. One more thing before you go. Remember, if you're dealing with chaos every day, if you're spending too much time in firefighting, if your whole team is in reactive mode, it's probably not your team, it's not your clients, it's not your project, it's not you, it's the gaps. And the biggest gap is the one between signing the contract and starting the job. That's where the details get missed. That's where the stress begins. And the fix is simple. It's a solid pre-construction process so you can nail the handoff from the office to the field. We want to help you build that out. And the first step is to schedule your free business evaluation call. Click the link in the show notes. We're going to help you identify the root cause of your chaos, show you how to unlock the profit that's already in your business, and we'll lay out a plan to help you nail the handoff. And if it makes sense, we'll talk about what working together looks like. So click the link in the show notes to schedule your call with my team. Be advised, calls are very limited and not everybody qualifies for these calls. So go book your call today, and I'll see you next time.